Hey everybody, welcome back to another recap and review. It's been a while since I've done one of these. It's the end of Crisis of Infinite Earths, the big CW Arrowverse crossover. Parts 4 and 5 were last night, Tuesday. So if you have not seen these episodes, open a new tab, go to cwtv.com, watch them, and then come back here because I'm talking full spoilers. The beginning of this crossover, parts 1 through 3, I was a little on the fence about. I liked 1, I liked 3, 2 was kind of and I was kind of nervous for where this was gonna go. But this finale, I actually think redeemed the first half for me. I actually had a lot of fun with this, and it went to some very wacky places, and there were some big surprises. So let's get right into it. Part 4 starts off with the Paragon still stranded at the vanishing point. You see Ryan Choi writing a letter to, I assume, his wife, explaining everything that's happened since. You kind of get an idea of where everybody's at. I thought this was an interesting way of really showing the aftermath of what happened, how everybody's kind of reacting to the situation. Barry ran off into the Speed Force to try and find a way to get out of there, and everybody else is still just kind of there dealing with the situation in their own personal way. Ryan Choi and Lex Luthor are trying to find a way to get out of there by building some device. It doesn't work. And then Oliver shows up as the Spectre, which we knew was going to happen. And now I was excited to see where this was going to go because, again, I was on the fence about Oliver dying so early in the crossover. I was like, well, where's this gonna go? He doesn't even get to fight the Anti-Monitor. What is this? And then they did this whole Spectre thing towards the end. So then my interest was reignited. So the plan is to, one, try and go back to the past. So actually back up. They did show the Monitor's origin story of how he came to be and how the Anti-Monitor came to be. So the plan with Oliver is for some of them to go and try and convince the Monitor, or Marnovu at this point, he hasn't actually become the Monitor, to not do his experiment, which causes the breach to open into the antimatter universe, and then the other group is going to run through the Speed Force and try and get to the beginning of time to start to fight the Anti-Monitor. The overall plan is that they're ultimately going to try and distract or keep the army busy while Oliver uses his power to try and recreate the universe. And that sounds pretty crazy already. And so we see Lex, Kara, and Ryan go to Marnovu's planet, and then everybody else gets trapped in the Speed Force, and they all get split up. Now this, I thought, was one of the most interesting parts of this episode, is now you're seeing Oliver. Basically what he did is he used his memory, his essence, to try and keep everybody protected so they won't fall out of the Speed Force and get destroyed by antimatter. You see Barry going through different elements of Oliver's past, different moments of Arrow, seeing all these characters that are either gone or now they're different versions that exist now. But you see everybody kind of living through parts of Oliver's life, which is interesting. But by far, the craziest part of this sequence, this part of the episode, is Barry Allen from the TV series meets Barry Allen from the movie universe. This part, I screamed, I jumped out of my couch. I was in total disbelief. I did not think they were gonna do this. I'm surprised nobody saw this coming. There were no leaks, nothing. I was so caught off guard, and this was an amazing moment. Seeing these two versions of the Flash interact, I never thought this would happen. That was probably my favorite part of this whole episode. But it's really funny because Flash from the movies is like, oh, are you a fan? Is this a cosplay? Do you want an autograph? And then Barry's like, no, I'm you. I'm the Flash. And then Flash from the movies is like, the what? And so basically, our Barry from the TV series gives the Flash from the movies his name, or inspiration for his name, which I thought was a really nice touch. It was a really funny moment. Grant Gustin and Ezra Miller played off each other really well. This was just a great, great moment for this crossover. But basically now Barry goes around, rounds up everybody. You see people reliving different parts of Arrow, like Sarah relives her death. And you see John Jones talking to Oliver and Kara during the Invasion crossover. We basically see different moments from Arrow, but with people, the Paragons, kind of mixed in there. So now everybody assembles back at the beginning of time, the dawn of time, and now the plan is to fight off all these shadow demons while Oliver fights the Anti-Monitor and recreates the universe. And this part was pretty cool. Now, I'll admit, on the second watch of this, it looked a little more cheesy because, first of all, they're all fighting. Lex Luthor has laser hands now, apparently. He used the Book of Destiny to give himself powers. And John Cryer is great as Lex Luthor, don't get me wrong. But the way he looked, just shooting lasers out of his hand with the suit on, like, you know, the shoulder pads are kind of like brushed up, and he's like, and it looked really goofy. And then there's Ryan Choi, who's not even a superhero, and the whole time they're trying to tell this man, you're not a superhero, you don't have powers, but you're still valuable, you still have a purpose to play. And at first, you think it's for his brains, and to a point it is, but then there's this scene where they have to straight up fight ghost demon things, and he's there just kicking and punching, like, what? That didn't make sense to me necessarily. I get it, and it was a cool moment to see everybody fighting together, but there's just an element of cheesiness to it, which I guess is kind of where we are in the Arrowverse. Especially, one thing I've noticed throughout this crossover, and I'll get into specific moments later, but there are times where I could see maybe they, not that they ran out of money, but they were definitely trying to save their money for certain moments later on, so some elements here and there weren't either fully polished or they just chose not to use CGI at all. One of those, I'll say now, is John Jones. The fact that he wasn't an alien for a lot of this, to me, for at least story reasons, didn't make sense. He did turn to his alien form at the end, but most of the time he's in his human form fighting and stuff. So to me, I was like, yeah, that's probably because they didn't want to spend more money on the CGI of Martian Manhunter, which I can understand, but just in the context of the story, it would have made more sense for him to be the alien version for the whole battle. But anywho, Oliver and the Anti-Monitor are fighting. Oliver finally says the line, "You have failed this universe," and I thought he was going to say multiverse, but then it makes sense later why he didn't. But you see them fight, they're shooting lasers at each other, big explosion, Oliver has like lasers coming out of his eyes. It kind of reminds me of the finale of Last Airbender where Aang had the Fire Lord in his grip and he was like shooting lasers out of his face, like both of them had lasers coming out of their face. But yeah, there's the superhero sky beam, the universe is being recreated, and then Oliver has his second death. Now, both of these deaths, I think, didn't hit as hard as I thought they would. I mean, the first one hit a little bit harder because I didn't expect it. But this one, it's like you killed him and then you sort of brought him back and then you killed him again. So it just, for me, the emotion was kind of there. And for me, what I think really made the second death hit, the final death hit, is everybody else's reactions to it. Like Oliver dying, like I already saw this happen. So to me, it didn't hurt as much, but it was still noble. Seeing him die was still sad. Don't get me wrong. He's the character we've been in for a long time. But just because there's these two deaths happening in the same crossover, it's really a hard situation because without one, you can't have the other. Like without his first death, he couldn't have become Spectre to do all this stuff. But at the same time, I think it would have hit harder if there was just one death, which would have been this one right here at the end after he defeats the Anti-Monitor. That I think really would have like hit people. And I think this one, both these hit people, I'm sure, but for me personally, it would have hit more if there was only one death. One big final death just to really cap off everything, say goodbye to him, all that. But anywho, now we get to the really crazy part. We go right into part 5 where everybody appears to be back on Earth, and at first everyone thinks they're on their own individual Earth, but they slowly start to figure out they're actually all on one Earth now, and that was amazing. This is what I've been waiting for, honestly. I'm really surprised it took this long for this to happen, but now it all makes sense. All the Arrowverse shows are on one Earth now called Earth Prime, and then the DC streaming shows are on their own Earths because they're actually not all on the same Earth. They're all kind of split up, like Swamp Thing split up, Doom Patrol split up, and Titans are split up. But then there's also the movie Earths, like Superman Returns Earth, Earth 96, and then it looked like Green Lantern, but not a CW Green Lantern. It looked like they were using footage from the Green Lantern movie with Ryan Reynolds, which is kind of iffy, but I guess that's just their way of saying that that movie universe is its own thing. So the multiverse is not gone. At first, people were worried that they were getting rid of the multiverse completely. They are not, which again is smart because if they did that, then one, they would have to explain why all of the movie people and the TV show people aren't together. So smart. But basically from this point on, when they figure out they're all on the same Earth, it just gets really wacky. But before that, you see Team Arrow's reaction to Oliver's death, because another thing I like, Martian Manhunter was going around restoring people's memories so they would remember what would happen, because at the time that everything restarted, the whole universe restarted, only the Paragons knew or remembered everything that went down in Crisis. So Martian Manhunter, John Jones, goes around restoring people's memories, or at least all the Super Friends, which that's another thing. All the Super Friends are now being reminded of what happened, or if they didn't know at all, he just gave them their memories back. And everybody is now aware that Oliver died twice. And like I said, Oliver's death itself didn't hit me, but the reactions hit me, especially Diggle, when he said he died twice. I wasn't there twice. I failed him twice. That's the part that really hit me hard. That's where I'm like, dang, they really did Diggle like that. 2 times he was not there. And again, he couldn't help it either way, so I really felt bad for him in that moment. Also seeing Renee and Dinah crying and Sarah crying, like everybody realizing that even though everything's been restored, Oliver is not back because he sacrificed himself to save the universe, the multiverse. So it did really hit hard, and a lot of this episode is dedicated to saying goodbye to Oliver, which I thought was done well. And then it gets fun. There's something attacking the city, which they're all in now, and it's Bebo, because this is technically the Legends of Tomorrow part of the crossover. So of course there's Bebo, and he's wreaking havoc. At first I can't figure out what it is. It's definitely not totems because they already took care of that in a previous season. It turns out it's this magician guy who's using it as a distraction so he could go rob a bank. But it was just hilarious seeing everybody dealing with Bebo, and Diggle makes this joke like, I'm never letting my kids watch that show again. That was so funny. I love that it went from like doom and gloom to just crazy over the top in a matter of like an hour or two. This was just insane. Nash Wells comes along because he's back and his memories have been restored and everybody hates him now, which is going to be interesting. And he says my antimatter scanner thing on my bracelet is still going off, so there's definitely something going on still. Turns out the antimatter's not dead, and he's actually sending the shadow demons after the Paragons. So you see them save Ryan, you see one attack Barry and Sarah, and now they're all teaming up to take on the anti-monitor one more time, once and for all. Ryan and Ray decide they're going to make this device that's going to keep shrinking the anti-monitor because they can't actually destroy him. They can only move him around or change his state. So they're making that while the heroes are teaming up. And then it turns into this big fight. The anti-monitor grows huge, like it's about to be a Power Rangers Megazord fight. And again, this fight was cool. There were some cheesy moments to it, but again, it's the CW. But it was nice seeing a bigger team of people fighting because in the first half, and by first half I mean parts 1 through 3, you didn't see that many people really involved in the Crisis stuff necessarily. It was a pretty small contained group. So it was better to see some more people in the mix like Dreamer, Alex, Martian Manhunter. Like there were some more people involved in this one, so I was happy about that. And there was a moment during the final battle where they made it seem like Kara was gonna sacrifice herself or something. Like the music swelled and you see her just like going for like about to attack the anti-monitor, and at first I'm like, are they gonna kill her? But then they don't, because then immediately she turns to the side and sees Ray come with the device that him and Ryan made. So to me, that part didn't necessarily make sense. I don't see the point of that because they didn't actually do anything with it. But hey, it's CW, so you can't really look into it that much. So they defeat the anti-monitor, he shrinks away. So now there's basically the big goodbye for Oliver, where the president gives a speech about his death and how he sacrificed himself. I don't think this president has appeared in other series or other seasons, previous seasons. I could be wrong, but I don't recognize this person, so maybe it's a new character created from the new universe. But everybody's saying goodbye to Oliver. There's a moment of silence, which again also hit. And at the very end of all of this, you see the team meeting up in the hangar or the Star Labs facility from Invasion, and now that's basically going to be their Hall of Justice, but not really because I don't think can legally be the Justice League. So I think they're going with Super Friends because they also hinted at the monkey from the cartoon, which I didn't really watch, but I had to look it up, and I was like, oh, okay. So now they're Super Friends. They're all on the same Earth. They have a base of operations, so this is going to be interesting. I'm very happy about where this left off, now having everybody back on the same Earth, but it did raise some questions for me, and let me pull those up. So a few questions I had now that everybody's back, so it seems, and there is a multiverse now, but it's just different. So baby Sarah is back. Well, not baby anymore. Now Diggle and Lila have 2 kids, JJ and Sarah, who kind of look close in age. So are they like twins, or are they just really maybe a year or 2 apart? But that was interesting. I'm just wondering the logistics of that and how that affects the timeline too, because now another big thing, William and future JJ were not in this at all. I don't know if it was the actors, which brings back to the whole budget thing. Did they just not pay these actors and have the money to bring these actors in? But I feel like William definitely should have been in the mix somewhere, especially when Oliver died twice, or when they were memorializing him. Nowhere did they even mention William. They mentioned Felicity. Mia was there when Oliver died at first time, but this time, or none of the times, William was there, so that didn't make sense. I guess they're gonna have to address that in the show itself, and you see William's reaction to hearing his father died, but we'll see. The other weird moment was when Superman was flying and Lois called him and said, hey, your sons are in trouble, blah, blah, blah. And he says, sons? Superman was not a Paragon. So he did not have to get, or so he had to get his memories restored of everything else, but he should have the memories of this reality. So he should know he has two sons. So that part was weird. That was a little inconsistent for me, and I guess we'll figure out more about that in their show, because they're apparently getting a show, Clark and Lois. We'll see how that goes. And my other question now is that since there's a new Earth 2 where it looks like Stargirl is taking place, what happened to Harry and Jesse and other versions of the Flash? Like all the multiverse that we knew before, it can't all be collapsed into one Earth because that would be really messy. The idea of bringing the characters from the different shows together, or the different shows into one Earth, that makes sense. But then that in itself has a multiverse. There's different versions of the Flash. There's different versions of Black Lightning. So did they just scrap everything else? I mean, it was destroyed anyway, but did they just ignore that as they put it back together? I don't know. We'll have to figure it out. General thoughts. I think overall I did have fun with this crossover. Part 1 was really good. Part 2 was kind of iffy, made me nervous. Part 3 redeemed it, and then Part 4 and 5 exceeded my expectations. They were really fun, really action-packed, a great send-off for Oliver, and really set the stage for the rest of the Arrowverse now that they're all on one Earth. And so I'm excited for where this all goes. I'm excited to see where the Flash goes now. Oh, that reminds me. So, another crazy thing. Why did they have this whole story about the Flash disappearing? Reverse Flash in season 5 said, "See you in the next crisis," and then he didn't appear at all. And the newspaper was clearly saying that the Flash disappeared in a fight with Reverse Flash. So what happened to all that? What was the point? And I saw in the trailer for the continuation of the season of the Flash that they're gonna address Barry living a life where he didn't actually disappear. But what was the point of all this? What was the point of the emotional buildup? I still don't know, because again, I think there was a cop-out when they sent away or killed off 90s Flash instead of our Flash. They're gonna have to figure that one out or explain that one in the season. I'll have to wait and see. I am also interested in seeing how Nash Wells deals with being hated basically by everybody because he caused the worst crisis ever. So we'll have to see all that. But anyways, general thoughts, I like the crossover. I'm still not sure if I would put it above Earth X. I think maybe 4 and 5 pushed it a little bit above, but I think this and Earth X are like neck and neck. That is Crisis on Infinite Earths. What did you think about this crossover? Let me know down in the comments. Also, don't forget to like this video, share it, and subscribe. Thank you for watching. I will see you in the next one.